is 6:30, no reason to beat around the bush. I want to welcome everybody to this MSAD 15 budget workshop. I'm going to do my best to speak up through the mask and or not speak very much. If everybody can join me to start with Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. Okay, I don't think we have any voting items, but we do have a quorum. We need one. Upcoming meetings, our next school board budget workshop is here in the high school library on February 28th. Feel free to join us for that one as well. We don't have any old business, I don't think. Craig is on bereavement leave, he's not here, so we are not going to do parking lot questions to start. We're going to save those for our next workshop. We're just going to go right into our new business, which is we have department reports from Memorial, Russell, Dunn, and Special Services. And I have them in that order, but I know you guys sometimes put them in different orders in your presentation, so I will do it whatever order you guys want to do.
That is the right order.
All right, well, let's get going with Memorial then. Also, did you guys share around the doc?
We emailed you to the school board address.
Oh, shoot, all right.
Oh, that's the best way.
It is, that just means that I now have for it as well. I'm just gonna, while we're getting set up, I'm forwarding to you the presentation so you can have it on your own screen if you want.
Right here. And you're gonna click for me? So I'll look at you. All right. Amanda. You move that way. Oops. Like, I don't have enough hands. I might have to just read off the
All right,
slides.
I just forwarded it to you, might take 2 seconds, but in your email box should be this presentation. If you're having difficulty seeing it there, you should be able to click on it and open it up.
Open this box.
Yeah, we should take, we should put X there.
Well, good evening.
Take it away, Amanda.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Amanda Hennessy. I'm the principal of Memorial School in Gloucester. This is my 9th year as the principal at Memorial School, lucky me. Prior to that, I worked at the middle school in the office and as a middle school teacher, so it's nice to meet some of you that are new to the board since last we did this presentation. So very excited to tell you all about Memorial School. Oh, skip one. I just have to be a little more forceful. So some recognition and celebration to start. Very excited about some outdoor renovations at Memorial this year. We completed our playground fencing project. Those of you that have been on the board for a while know I've been talking about the playground fencing project for like 9 years, so we got it done. Looks fantastic, very safe. And we were also able to have installation of some new equipment on the playground. We got some replacement tire swings for some that we had to take down a few years ago, and we have 2 new wobble boards. So the students at Memorial School are very excited about our new equipment. Also, just want to make sure to recognize and celebrate our Memorial School families. They are the very best. They're communicative, they're generous partners, both in feedback and time and resources, working with us to provide the best experience for their K-2 students. And of course, the Memorial School staff. They're very adaptable, they're resilient, they're proactive practitioners, and it's a delight to work with them every day. So a little bit of an update on last year's goals. Our first goal last year was to increase the percentage of students who demonstrate growth towards performance at proficient levels or above in reading from 69% to 64 to 69%, as measured by our spring administration of the developmental reading assessment. This is a year-to-year goal for Memorial School. We are a Title I school, so as a Title I school, we will always have a goal around literacy and a goal around math. So our goal again, to work on this goal, we continually review student data to inform our next steps for instruction, and we have provided ongoing professional development in literacy, reading, and phonics, and writing. So some data for our goal. Unfortunately, we didn't reach our goal last year, but we made some progress. At the end of the year, 66% of Memorial School students scored proficient, according to that assessment. However, on a different measure, on the Northwest Evaluations Association's literacy assessment, 79% of Memorial School students scored proficient or better. So we are pleased with that. And 80% of the students at Memorial School made at least 1 year's growth in literacy last year. So nice growth, but we strive to hit that benchmark this year. Like I mentioned, we always have a literacy goal. We also always have a math goal. Last year, our goal was to pilot some research-based math programs, and that was part of the district-wide math program review. And we piloted 4 different programs at Memorial. And at the end of the year, 75% of Memorial School students scored proficient or above on the NWEA assessment. And we did pilot 4 different programs, 3 at 3 different grade levels. And we collected data and feedback to inform instructional decisions around that program. Spent a lot of our professional development time engaged in those conversations about math. Teachers collaborated weekly, so every Wednesday afternoon we have a professional development opportunity. And it was a little challenging for us because we had, I have 3 second grade teachers last year. They were teaching 3 different programs, so we had to work very closely to make sure that at the end of the year the kids had the same outcomes even though we were using different instructional materials. We spent a lot of time looking at the benefits and the drawbacks of each program, but also making sure we were synced. Last year we presented a recommendation to adopt Bridges in Mathematics at the K-2 level along with Russell School, and that was approved by the curriculum committee and the school board last spring. So that was exciting work for us last year. Our third goal last year was to expand family connections and partnerships to improve communication, support, and engagement. Again, as a Title I school, we have a community engagement goal annually. Would be important to us anyways, but you'll notice from year to year, we maintain a goal around community engagement. Towards that end, we collected and analyzed student attendance data. We worked with New Gloucester Rec Department and local daycares, and about 60 of our students either access before and after care at the rec or at the daycares in town. So we worked with those organizations to ensure that kids had nice wraparound care, provide support as needed. And in terms of another piece of this goal is we plan at least 2 family engagement events each year, one in the fall and one in the spring. And this is some of the data from our last 2 family nights. In the fall, we had 110 students, 58% of Memorial School students attend our family night. And in the spring, we had 150 students. 26 were incoming kindergartners who attended pre-K students and other kiddos that would be coming into kindergarten the following year, along with 124 current students attended, so we had 67% of our students attend. So that was really exciting. Those are, at Memorial School staff, those are our 2 favorite days of the year when we get to welcome families in and really kind of share some about our programming, but really it's a chance for families to get to know one another, talk with staff, we enjoy a meal together. It's really a wonderful way for us to get together as a Memorial School community. And just another piece of data towards this goal. Last year, in April, we did a family climate survey. The number of families that completed our survey increased from 38 to 72, so we had a nice increase in participation. The scores on the surveys was a number of questions. They go from a 0 score, which is never, to a 4, which is always. Most areas in the survey increased from the year before, and all were above a 3, so often, families noted often. And we saw a little bit of an increase, too, from the year before. And the areas that showed an increase were parental environment, institutional environment, and interpersonal relationships. So we were glad to see some growth on that survey. We'll do that again this year, too. Our 4th goal for last year was to ensure that students feel welcome and included at school and are ready to learn. Very important to us. And some of the work we did towards that is we provided ongoing support and professional development to the staff on social emotional learning competencies. For a K-2 school, that looks like getting kids prepared to do school. So how are we in a classroom with 20 other students? How do we get along? How do we make friends? How do we navigate the school day? How do we ask for help if we need it? So working on all of those competencies with our students. Also, we are fortunate enough that our school counselor provides 40-minute guidance lessons weekly, and that's ongoing, it's needs-based. So if we notice kids are struggling with being safe on the playground equipment, Becky Dwyer, our school counselor, will create a lesson to target that. Should we take them outside and show them the safety rules again, that sort of thing. So we can definitely make sure that we're providing what students need when they need it and connect it to all aspects of our school life. And some data on that goal. So we also do a tiered fidelity inventory assessment each year. It was a mouthful. And on this survey, we found that the percentage of staff who knew all 4 of our school-wide expectations when asked, and it's kind of what happens is a staff member that's a part of this committee kind of stands in the lobby and sort of randomly talks to staff and students. And that increased from 80% to 100% of our staff being able to name our 4 expectations, which is safe, respectful, responsible, and kind. This percentage of staff that actually taught expectations to students increased from 60% to 92%. So some of that is we schedule lessons through the year where we're reviewing the expectations as a whole school, but a lot of that's kind of the by-the-way teaching. So, students come in and they need a little reminder about using walking feet. So how do we review that for safe behavior? And the percentage of staff who gave out positive behavioral acknowledgement in the last 2 months increased from 90% to 100%. We have a couple of different systems at Memorial School. Our mystery student, where we nominate students weekly, and then we also have something called Star Chips, which are something we award as we see students demonstrating our expectations. So 100% of our staff indicated they had given that sort of acknowledgement out recently. So that was exciting too. So to move forward into this year's goals, and like I said, you'll see a trend because we're definitely working on these for the long game. But so the goals are similar, although the data points might have changed up a little bit. So this year, we're looking to increase the percentage of students who demonstrate growth towards proficiency or above in reading from 66% to 71%, and we'll measure that with our spring developmental reading assessment. Some progress we've made towards that goal. We have collected data twice already, in September and November. We'll do so again in March and then in May and June. So we actually collect data for the whole school, and we monitor that over students' time at Memorial School to make sure that they are growing as we would expect or beyond that. And we would intervene if we noticed that a student had maybe not made the growth we expected in the amount of time. We meet weekly in our professional learning communities to gain an understanding of our students' level of performance and talk about and work together to make sure we're informing our next steps for instruction. And we've begun, this was something we did in the pre-pandemic days, and it was a little tricky for us because we stayed very cohorted in groups, but now we're able to be more flexible. So we've gone back to some flexible grouping strategies to ensure that we can intervene with students for the skills they need right when they need them. And so each grade level has an intervention block, and the teachers in the grade level work together, share students, to ensure that we're able to target skills specifically that students need right now. Our second goal for this year, our math goal, is to adopt and implement the Bridges math program in grades K through 2. And we've taught 3 units so far this year. The teachers are really enjoying the curriculum, really digging in, and the kids are really enjoying it too. There's a lot of excellent components. We've used our professional development time to build our knowledge of the program and work together across Memorial School. And coming right up on Friday, we're going to meet with the teachers at Russell School and do that work across both schools so that we're sure that whether you go to 2nd grade at Memorial or Russell, you're having a similar instructional experience in math. So very excited, very promising in this first year. Our third goal for this year is our family engagement goal, so expanding those family connections and partnerships to improve communication, understanding, and support and engagement. And we've been working on that, so we have a school improvement team that meets monthly to discuss school events, problem solve, strategize. That team is comprised of myself, my 3 teacher leaders, 1 from each grade level, and about 6 parents who are regular attenders, so super helpful. A big shout out to the Memorial School SIT team if you're watching at home. Very, very helpful team. Some parents, if they have kids whose ages are spaced out, have been on that team for years, have been contributing, and we have some new members this year. We are communicating with child care providers, I would say especially New Gloucester Rec, but also any other daycares and town child care centers that would like to collaborate with us. And we will plan to conduct our climate surveys again this April, so we'll have that set of data to compare to last year and the years before. Our fourth goal is to ensure students feel welcome and included at school and are ready to learn. And we measure that with our student survey data. It's really interesting to administer a student survey to 5-year-olds, by the way. We had to kind of figure out how to do that best. We finally learned it works best to sit down with them one-on-one and administer the survey because it's their first go-around. But by the time they leave us in 2nd grade, they're pretty adept. And our surveys have like thumbs up, thumbs sideways, thumbs down, so that they're able to give their feedback. So we'll do that this spring. We also have a multi-tiered systems of support committee that meets monthly. That committee looks at student data, creates opportunities to teach and review expectations in the school, plan school-wide events. Really a very helpful committee to help us work towards this goal of making students feel welcome and included. And this year, we also have a Tier 2 multi-tiered system of supports committee that meets quarterly that's looking at reviewing data practices and solidifying procedures as kids move up, sort of are in need of more intervention at a Tier 2 level from a Tier 1. So that is a new committee for us. And we're also working to refine our Tier 1 social emotional learning curriculum to best meet the needs of students. That happens through our guidance special each week, but also in the classroom, teachers and their students. So current challenges at Memorial School, we still lack consistent sub-coverage. I think I was down 3.5 people today, so that it persists. Maybe not quite at the level it once was when we had like no substitutes, but it still is a consistent problem for us. We also have between 2 to 4 unfilled educational technician positions all the time, all year. We've been at that level, which is really challenging because the needs of the students call for this number of positions, so we have to be creative. We are able to use some substitutes, but number 1 affects number 2, and we don't have that big pool. For those of you that have been on a facilities tour at Memorial School, you know we have some ongoing issues with water damage in the library, which continues to persist, but that is in the capital plan to address that piece. I think it's going to be, it's going to require some significant work, so. Other challenges, our need for our general education social worker does exceed capacity. So in the pre-K to 4 schools, we share 1 general education social worker. So she's at Memorial School a day and a half a week. Her caseload is full. It's a little tricky sharing staff that way because sometimes a situation arises on a day when our social worker is at Russell or Dunn. And so trying to coordinate that and make that all work just gets a little bit complicated. But definitely, it has been very helpful to have that role, but still we have more students that could be served if we were allotted more social worker time. We talked about this at the facilities tour too this year, but our parent pickup loop does present some traffic issues, especially in the afternoon, in terms of kind of backing up onto Intervale Road. So looking for ways to address that and make that a little safer. We do a typical day. We have about 190 students at Memorial School this year. We have about 80 parent pickups. So it's a significant number of students who are now parents that are in that line picking up their kids, which does help with our bus problem, but did create kind of another problem that was maybe unforeseen. Partnerships that we leverage at Memorial School. We work very closely with the New Gloucester Rec Department, both during the school year and also in the summer. They've been great partners in terms of providing care after our summer program. We work with the New Gloucester daycares. We work with an organization called Logos for our literacy professional development, and they come in and do 3 days, Danny? 3 days a year with each grade level. They're actually working with us a little bit on Friday as well with both schools. And of course, we love working with Russell and Dunn schools, try very hard to be a cohesive group. I feel like you'll hear a lot of the same things that I've just said with Danny and Jeff present in the next few minutes, but that's on purpose. We want to make sure we're all rowing in the same direction. And a big shout out to the Memorial School Patriot parents who definitely help us to provide enrichment opportunities, field trips, and teacher appreciation events, which is something we're very grateful for. Small but mighty group on that, really run by one parent. So we're really grateful to you, Melissa. So they are wonderful partners with us. And that's Memorial School. Thank you.
Thanks, Amanda. One seemed to work okay last week to do just sort of questions as we go, so we don't forget about them. Any questions or comments for Amanda? Penny?
Hi. Curious, we heard in waitlist situation with the middle school gen ed social worker as well. What is the current caseload of students versus the average waitlist?
We don't have a waitlist at Memorial currently, which is good. So all of the kids we've been able to refer, and I wish I could tell you that off the top of my head. I want to say it's somewhere around 10 students that she sees. Some students once a week, some twice, but she's just at Memorial for a day and a half. So around there, but we don't have a wait list as of yet. We've been able to see the kids we have. The harder part for us is if something comes up with a student when Abby is at a different school and just trying to make that work. And often kids feel most comfortable talking to our social worker if they've worked with her for a long time, although our school counselors also contribute, and, we work together as a team. That's a great question, but I can tell you more specifically. I have that computer. It's a great question. Yeah, she has all that. People want all that information.
Hold on just a minute.
The, you have about 50% of the parents bringing the kids to school. What if that changes in another year or two? What about transportation? Do you have enough buses to bus those 80 additional? And that would be for all the schools, question for all the schools as well.
Right. I mean, at this time, we have 4 buses that run to Memorial School. We used to have 7 just a few years ago. So we've reduced, almost by half the number of buses. Jeff gets to be.
Excuse me, because of the parents.
I think just because we have fewer drivers.
I don't think we should really relitigate the transportation issue. We have a whole transportation plan that we've just voted to put into place. We know we have a bus driver deficit.
Yeah. I think it would be challenging. It's kind of presents challenges either way. If all of a sudden, like those 80 parents change, and I will say that number kind of has grown over time too. It definitely grew a lot in our hybrid year. A lot of families got into that routine and have stayed with that. But I think it would be a challenge. I'm not sure we could fit all 80 of those students back on a bus.
Just trying to look for the future. All right, and this social emotional curriculum. Could you go a little more deeper into that, or just a little bit, just a general?
Yeah, absolutely. So for us, social emotional learning has to do with, learning to be in school. So how do you know how to come in the morning and follow classroom routines? How do you know how to have the attention to sit and maybe pay attention to a lesson for 5 to 10 minutes, which is kind of a stretch for kindergartners in the beginning? How do you learn how to make a friend? So you're on the playground, how do you go up to someone and say, would you like to play on the swings with me? So it's really those basic skills that students need to exist within a group. We work on things like teaching responsibility, how to make sure you get your job done. We work a lot on safety. So how do you walk down the hallway in a safe way? So that another class could be coming the other way and it all works well. If you've ever been at Memorial during the day, it's a science and it takes a lot of practice. We spend a lot of time teaching kids how to eat in the cafeteria. So they've never had a tray before. Sometimes students haven't sat in like a restaurant, so they've never had that communal dining experience. So it's really down to teaching all of those routines that are necessary for school and also for life as they get a little bit older. And we try to make sure that we meet kids where they're at. Each group's a little different, has a different set of skills coming in. So we try to observe, collect data, and then provide that instruction. But it's really those basic kind of building blocks of being part of a school, a classroom. Yeah, great question. It's really fun to do too.
I'm sorry, I should know the answer to this, but we have had a traveling teacher that has moved with that big class. That big class is graduating out this year. Do you expect to reduce your staff size by one?
We do, yep. Yeah, so we had added a teacher for first grade, we have an additional teacher for second grade this year. Our big group is moving to Dunn, so we will not ask for another one-year position. We'll go from 11 teachers back down to 10. Hopefully that teacher will find a nice soft land, she's fantastic, so.
It seems like we often have,
I think there'll be a spot.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll find a spot, but yeah,
but so
exactly.
we haven't had a similar bubble come in.
No,
That was the like kids who didn't go to kindergarten during COVID bubble basically?
it was, and it was like, I think we have about 70, and like right now, my first grade class and my kindergarten class are like 61, 62, but it was just enough to push the class size numbers into like the 23 range. So, I mean, we'll still have 20, 21 students in first and second grade classrooms, but that will be manageable. And we're not sure about kindergarten yet, we just opened the pre-enrollment, but I expect it's been at about 60 for the last few years, so I expect it to be in that area. It'll also free up instructional space, because you guys had seen when you came out that we were kind of
There should be one room that is not being used.
Exactly, so we'll be able to move some of our specials back to a classroom, so it'll give us a little breathing room at Memorial School too, so that'll be good.
That'll make some members of our community happy, I know.
Yes.
Other thoughts, questions? All right, thanks Amanda.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Amanda.
Here's the clicker.
Thank you.
As Amanda said, well, and maybe I've said this many times, she and I work very closely together. We talk several times a day because one of our goals as administrators is to provide an equitable experience to kindergarten through second grade students in Gray in New Gloucester. Because of that, as we prepare for this meeting, we typically will have a pretty epic rock, paper, scissors battle to see who goes first, because the second person does a lot of repeating. So I'm going to apologize in advance for some of the things that you're going to hear, because it's going to sound pretty similar. But it is dissimilar enough where we feel like two different presentations would be appropriate. As far as recognition and celebration, our students, staff, and families, and our students are why we're here. We partner with our families because we know that that is the way to increase our student achievement. And each of those stakeholder groups has worked so hard over the last few years, and every year we are sort of presented with new challenges, things that we don't anticipate, and everybody is so great in the Russell School community at rallying together to create wonderful learning opportunities for kids. Last year, and through the pandemic years, one of the things that happened was we sort of lost a little bit of the fun. We lost some of those opportunities to come together as a school community. We lost sort of the spirit of the elementary school experience. So one of the things that we did last year is we really said, look, we are going to work really hard to bring fun back. We want to bring our Russell School community back together. I know many of you who attended, who had students who attended Russell School years ago. Part of what made it so special was the community rallying together. And so we spent a lot of time last year really trying to bring that community together, partnering with our Patriot Parents groups, trying to do more community-based activities and events. And so we did have a pretty significant increase in bringing the fun back to the school community. A big part of that was bringing parent volunteers and community volunteers back in. We've had a pretty significant increase in that volunteering opportunity, and it really is feeling like it felt pre-pandemic. The building is hustling and bustling every day. There are people in and out. Families are an active and engaged part of the school day, and that feels really great for us. Am I in the right place? There we go. Our annual, to that same vein, our annual climate survey from last spring indicated increased positive perceptions from families in each of our areas of teaching and learning, school safety, interpersonal relationships, our institutional environment, and a pretty good increase in that parental involvement. So we did see that come out through the perception of folks in that survey. This is probably the best recognition and celebration for us. This fall, we had some really great new playground equipment installed. We were really methodical about what we brought into the space. Here are just a couple of the pieces that we brought in. Things that we were hoping to achieve. Number one, just an overall facelift. Our equipment was falling apart. It was becoming a little bit unsafe. So we were happy to have something that looked new and exciting. We also tried to bring in this area here, our old playground equipment was pretty small, and there were a lot of times where kids were sort of crawling under things, and just sort of playing under there. So we worked really hard to bring in some really great sight lines so that we can be anywhere on the playground and we can sort of see all that's going on. We brought in some equipment that we didn't really have before, some things that spun so kids could get some of that input that they so desperately need. Over here there's a group swing where like 4 or 5 kids can pile on and they can swing together. Not pictured here are a couple of pieces of equipment where kids can climb across. So we were really intentional with what we brought in to make sure that in addition to it just being fun, that kids were actually meeting some of those needs that they had, with being so stationary during the day. As far as our goals for last year, Amanda spoke to this, but one of our math goal was really focused around trying to bring forward a program adoption for math. We were able to do that thanks to the hard work of our staff, bringing it through the curriculum committee and into you all for a final vote. We have really enjoyed that work, and I'll talk to that in just a moment, but we were feeling really successful with our ability to get that done last year as we piloted many different programs and had to really sift through a number of different factors. Our second goal last year was to increase the number of students who perform at or above the proficient level in reading as measured by the Developmental Reading Assessment. This is an assessment that we, like Memorial, use every year. We did increase, 51% of our students were meeting that benchmark in the fall. By the spring, 69% were meeting that benchmark. One of the things at K-2 that we talk a lot about is we spend a lot of time in meetings looking at data for kiddos, trying to understand their progression. And we recognize that kids all grow and develop at different rates. So in addition to sort of that grade level benchmark, one of the things that we do is we look and dive deeper to see where individuals start and where they end. And so we're pretty proud that 85% of our students made 1 year's worth of growth on that assessment. What's really great is beyond that, another 10% of those students were working on an identified plan, whether that was through special education or through response to intervention. That would account for another 10%. And then beyond that, there is an additional percentage of kids who were actually meeting the benchmark, but because they were reading so high, they were not able to make a year's worth of growth because they were already reading well above benchmark. What I really like to do is when we do this work, I like to step back and say, like, we know our kids, right? And we know where they are and where they're going. And we usually have a pretty good grasp on that. And that's something that we are pretty proud of. Our third goal was to maintain and improve our positive school climate and culture. As Amanda said, we've been working on our social emotional curriculum. We do have our special that goes into the classroom for 40 minutes a week. And we, in addition to the things that Amanda had spoken to, we do a lot of work around the zones of regulation. How is my body feeling today? What zone am I in? Am I happy? Am I a little bit down? What do I do when I'm in those places? Maybe my engine's running really high. What sort of things can I do? Can I use a movement break in the hallway? Can I do the obstacle course? Those sorts of things. We do a lot of work around empathy and generosity. And then February, we get into friendship. We're getting ready to start our kindness month and our kindness challenge, so we'll be doing some work around that. And also, just as Amanda said, how to be good citizens of our school community, how to, build those foundational pieces that they're going to need to be active and engaged citizens in the school community, in their in the broader community as scouts and that sort of thing. We also, as part of this work, as Amanda alluded to, we also give the tiered fidelity inventory. We've been doing a lot of work around our Tier 1 implementation, so we were pretty proud to move from 57% implemented to 90% implemented. What this meant for our school, and I'll talk to this in a little bit, but when you hit that 80% implemented, it sort of opens up the next tier. So now in this year, because we met that benchmark, we're able to do a little refinement in this Tier 1, but really it helps us to access our Tier 2 supports and building those systems around that. And really here, we placed a really heavy focus around explicitly teaching behavioral expectations. How do we proactively acknowledge student behavior? How do we celebrate our students' successes and those sorts of pieces? In that same vein, with the tiered fidelity inventory, it seems a little funny because we increased the number of staff who knew all school expectations from 78 to 100%. That number always strikes me funny because we have 3 behavioral expectations: be safe, be responsible, be respectful. But what we found was that we have a population of staff who work in multiple buildings, and inevitably those were the people who always were targeted when we did this survey. And so we knew that some of our work was to make sure we brought those people to the table to say, like, remember, at Russell School, our expectations are be safe, be respectful, be responsible. The piece that I think really pushed us over the edge on that one was that the district has really moved in a direction of all of the schools are using very common, very similar expectations. So now our staff that are moving from Russell School to Memorial School to Dunn School, they're looking and using the same language. We also dug into the staff who explicitly taught expectations. And when we say that, all staff teach kids, right? All staff spend time reviewing behavioral expectations, but we knew that we needed to spend some time really firming up how we taught that so that it was a common expectation that teachers and staff all taught the expectations the same way, so that when we say that you're not being safe, it's the same coming out of my mouth, coming out of your mouth, coming out of your mouth, and that students would understand that when I'm talking about being responsible, I'm talking about you as a student doing your job, and when somebody else in the school says that, they are meaning the same thing. So we increased the staff who explicitly taught from 44 to 92%. Digging into that data a little deeper, what we found is that respondents who were not explicitly teaching were, again, staff who were not spending all of their time with all of the kids. So, somebody like a therapist who comes in and only works with a few kids, their time with those kids is pretty targeted and not so much spent on this piece. It's more spent on the reinforcement side. And then our staff, we increased staff who handed out a positive behavior acknowledgement from 9 to 100%. So before last year, we had a number of different incentive programs in the building where grade levels maybe were doing something common, where individual teachers were doing their own thing. We moved to a system last year where it was common across the building, and therefore with a common expectation, with teaching, we could proactively, positively reinforce our students. And because of that, 100% of respondents said that they had handed out an acknowledgement. For this year, our math goal is to implement the 8 units with our new math program, Bridges. To date, we have fully implemented 3 of those units. We have engaged, as Amanda shared, several hours worth of professional development. And we've done some of that professional development with trainers from the program. We've done some of that professional development in-house. Some of it is administrator-led, some of it is teacher-led. Really, we are spending a lot of time determining what students need, what teachers need, and then building our plans organically from there. We are prioritizing 90 minutes a month at Russell School for professional learning communities that is directly focused on the implementation of our math program, and then also looking and collecting data from assessments and those sorts of pieces so that we can see, what are the trends, what do we need to work on, what are kids getting, what are kids not getting, what's going well, that sort of thing. And then as a result of that data collection, we're using that to identify kids who need additional support. So that might happen in the classroom. We might provide some support to kids based on what their assessment data looks like. If they don't need a lot of support, the classroom teacher is probably going to pull a small group together. If that's not the case, then we're using that to pull kiddos into maybe a small group or pushing in some support and using the Bridges intervention materials to support the curriculum that they're getting in the classroom. Our second goal this year is to increase the number of students again who perform at or above the proficient level in reading from 54 to 70% as measured by our DRA. In September, that number was down around 54%. We have increased to 62%. And right now we're sort of in between 2 reporting periods. So we have some interventions in place that are working to bring that number up. We're doing, as Memorial is, we have been spending time working in some flexible groups for various grade levels. Our kinders are getting to the point where they're starting to put pieces together, so we anticipate that that will also bring that score up over the next couple of reporting periods. Our third goal is to maintain and improve our positive school climate and culture. Similarly to last year, one of the things that we are trying to target is to take direct steps to decrease our chronic absenteeism. That is something that over the last couple of years we noticed there has been an increase. We've been working to bring that back down. In October, our chronic absenteeism was measured by students who missed 10% or more of the school year. In October, we were around 16%. Just last week, we were down to about 13%. It's a little tricky because that number changes every day, depending on what's going on. Probably if I were to pull that data this week, that number might be up a little bit because everybody got something at the Russell School right now. Colds, belly stuff, all those things. Where it really when cold and flu season starts to die down, I find that we have a better chance at reducing that number because we can sift out the kiddos who have missed because they have been ill and the kiddos who are missing, a couple of times a month, and their number is going up because of that. We also, as I said earlier, now that we have met the benchmark for Tier 1 implementation of PBI, of positive behavior interventions and supports, we are starting to move into our Tier 2. That looks like us building our team, meeting regularly, putting systems in place to support kiddos at a more intensive level. It's not that work has not been done. I want to be really clear that we have spent a lot of time building in practices for kids to get support. Now it's really just formalizing it. Some of the things are like making sure that you have a easy to read handbook, teachers know how to access those supports and those sort of things. So some of it is documentation, but we feel like we are making some good strides in that. Again, we're looking to build additional opportunities to increase our community, student, family engagement. We've done, this last fall, we did a Harvest Festival. Unfortunately, it got rained out, but we moved over to the middle school and did an inside event, and it was very well attended. Students, families, grandparents, I mean, everybody and their brother come to the middle school. Had a hot dog, played in the bounce house. It was really lovely. And we're looking to do another event this spring. There we go. Current challenges, we have had 2 unfilled ed tech positions this year. That does present some challenges because those are connected to students who have programs that need that support. One of the things that we have been doing is any opportunity that we have where our permanent sub is not filling in for a classroom teacher, we are moving that person over into the ed tech role to help support. One of the things that we find is particularly challenging around the ed tech positions when when a substitute picks up an ed tech role, often those students have a pretty prescriptive plan, and it requires a different level of expertise. And so we'll have subs who will pick up the jobs. They'll try it once or twice and realize that maybe it's a little bit outside of their comfort zone, or that what the role is not what they anticipated it might be. And so while we get them filled sometimes, it's not typically the same people coming back time and time again.
Just clarifying.
Yeah.
Not all ed techs are the same. Are they both 3s that we're missing, or the 2s we're missing, or the 1s?
Yeah, these positions are ed tech 2 positions, and they are direct student support.
Okay.
Yeah. Amanda talked a little bit about the shortage of substitute teachers. We have been blessed to have that permanent sub. What I would say the trend at Russell School is that we have a couple of subs who are willing to come back time and time again, but they are most comfortable picking up jobs in advance. So the jobs that we are not filling are typically, Mrs. Smith who gets sick overnight. They might put that in, at 8 o'clock, and by 8 o'clock the next morning, we still don't have somebody to fill that role. I maybe talked again to the general education social worker piece. Currently at Russell School, we do have 10 students on the social work roster. We do not have a wait list. One of the things that we have been really good at is each month we have a team meeting. The social worker, the school counselor, myself, the RTI, the Response to Intervention for Behavior teacher is there, and we spend a lot of time looking at the individual needs of those kids. So we are only referring kids who really have a significant need for that ongoing social work support. That next level down would be supported by the school counselor. Below that would be the RTIB teacher and our TLC ed tech.
Excuse me, what kind of needs are not being met, just so I have better clarity?
And
The social workers, our need for, what needs are not being met that we?
yeah, so one of the challenges, and Amanda spoke a bit to this, is that we have one person that we share across 3 buildings. So one of the challenges that we face quite often is that a student sees the social worker, they spend time working on coaching, implementing strategies. The social worker will support the student with the skills that they need to be successful to sort of put away some of those challenging things that they're facing at home. But when something big comes up, we are having to call. I might have to call Abby and say, I know that you're at Memorial School today, but this is a pressing issue and I need you to come over. Often those are issues that require us to get additional intervention. It might be that we need the social worker to work with a school resource officer around some challenges that have been brought up, or working with the DHHS. Because the social worker has a pretty intimate knowledge of the student and family structure, they are the best person to help support that. So when we are pulling them from different places, our students are not getting the support that they are expecting, which then sort of can set them off, because they really look forward to their time to be able to work with a safe person, but then if that gets canceled because the person is going to another school, that can be problematic. Partnerships that we're currently using, leveraging, first and foremost, Memorial and Dunn School. I always say we're transitioning kids in and out all the time, so we are working with Jeff quite a bit, and as I shared at the start of the presentation, Amanda and I work really closely to make sure we're providing equitable experiences for students in kindergarten through second grade. We have been using the resources provided by the Bridges implementation team. Some of that has been face-to-face, maybe in a virtual setting, but trying to get some feedback on our implementation practices. Some of that is homegrown and with the support of that team. Patriot Parents, that's a huge one. They have been working with us around community engagement and involvement, and they've been doing a wonderful job. We have a great group of Patriot Parents today. They provided breakfast to the Russell School staff, those little things month to month to boost morale and to show their commitment to the school community. We work very closely with Greg Rec on a number of different things. We are accessing logos for our literacy professional development. We had a great session last Monday, I believe it was, where we sat down and we looked at the trends in our developmental reading assessment data. We made program changes and plans for individual kiddos, took stock of where we were and where we needed to go. I think that might be the last slide. We also use this person to do some individual coaching for teachers where they feel like they have some deficits and help them build their skill set from there.
Thanks, Danny.
Yeah.
I'll start with just one question I have.
Sure.
Is we have that new walking path that abuts the playground. I did walking tour. It looks like they took our advice and made a nice berm. You actually can't really see very well, but have we had any weird looky-loos or anything like that?
Funny you ask. I did get called out today.
Oh, really?
It was the first time, though. Actually, second. We had, about a month ago, we had some folks who were trying to access the trail through the back playground.
Yeah.
We went out, I had a conversation with them. They were very agreeable to finding an alternate path. Today, the berm, so one of the things that we suggested with that path coming so close to the back of our playground, we had asked them to sort of put in a barrier so that there would be a very clear delineation that this is the walking path and then this is the school playground. The berm is about 6 feet tall, but today there was just one man and all we could see was his head. And he was staring onto the playground. But when we went over, he was actually just waiting for his dog to do his business. No big problems. Certainly I think it's just adjusting and getting used to it.
Good.
Yeah.
But I was very happy with what they built there.
I was too.
They did a nice job.
Yes, yep. And from our side, it really doesn't look like much. You can see a couple of trees that were planted, but when I went over and sort of climbed up, there is a pretty good delineation on the other side. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Anybody else with thoughts or questions?
Yeah, just two quick questions on
Sure.
the developmental reading assessment.
Yeah.
Who sets the proficiency level? The test developer?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So at various grade levels, there are different benchmarks that say where kids should be. on that assessment.
It's a national thing set by the test bureau?
Yes.
Okay. And how often is it renewed?
I'm not sure. We use the DRA2. I know they've come out with a DRA3, which may have some updated norms, but we have not explored that at this time.
It's not a set schedule?
No.
All right, that's it.
Thanks, Jeff. Go ahead, Brad.
The population of both schools, Russell and Memorial, pretty much the same.
Nope, we have about this year it's kind of close. Typically we're about 20 or 30 students different. We have about...
I'm showing on your report 190 for Memorial, and I'm showing for Russell,
204.
same thing. I showed 194.
Oh,
It's pretty cool.
my enrollment today is 204.
Pardon?
My enrollment today would be 204.
Well, I don't know what their enrollment would be either. I'm only based on the report that I received.
Sure.
Okay? And I was wondering why there was a $500,000 difference.
We have at each grade level, we have one more teacher, and that has been because we have had more students. So I know that today our enrollment is 204. Monday it'll be 205, we have a new kiddo coming. But we typically are a little bit higher than that. We run about 70 in a class.
I would add that there is
Did you need to adjust your report then? Could you adjust your report so I'd have actual figures?
It is correct in the report, Fran.
Pardon?
They're right in the report. Memorial says 190.
Yeah, I know, I see it. Well, my computer says 190, yeah, that's right.
Memorial is 190, but Russell it does say 204. I just took a check.
Okay, thank you.
I would also add that we have one very large
is
class
one
who are second graders at Memorial School. We anticipate that once that class exits, that
204.
the difference will be a little more, we'll be back more to what we're generally used to.
The other difference is because Memorial is a Title I school, so some of our staff is funded, not a lot, but a couple of positions are funded through title grants where
Let me just redo that. So there's a difference of, according to this, 4 students. They're not exactly the same, right?
14
190,
this year
190,
yeah,
and 204.
204. Your cap there is 14.
14. That's right, 14. And that has one more teacher, 14 students. That makes it, you said 23 per classroom, basically.
We don't have 23 per classroom.
Okay. I have 22.
That's probably from Memorial.
Okay.
I think she was saying.
But my
she
point
was
is,
doing that.
that seems like, you know, a larger amount of money between the two schools. I was just curious why.
I'm gonna guess, and I don't know those numbers off the top of my head. I'm gonna guess that a good chunk of that might be salary and benefits. We have a number of staff who are veteran. I think Memorial as a whole has a relatively younger staff. Again, I can't tell you the number off the top of my head.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if you heard Amanda. Because Memorial is a tier 1 school based on the number of free and reduced lunch qualifiers.
Sorry, can I just interject?
no.
So the title funds that we use are completely focused on intervention staffing.
Right.
We do not use any title funding for classroom staffing. All of that is paid out of local. So to the particular issue at the moment, Title I is to a certain degree kind of irrelevant. I would also preview for folks who have been following this for a while. In the coming year, Russell School will be joining the other 2 schools as the Title I school, more than likely. So I might just maybe put the title piece aside because I think that is confusing the bigger issue. But we have a situation at the moment where Memorial and Russell are closer than they have ever been. That's why we added an additional teacher to Memorial School to follow that one cohort of group, that one group of kids. Those kids are second graders. They will head to Mr. Robbins over there next year. We'll be eliminating a position at Memorial School. We then anticipate the differences will be the same. You'll also be receiving a staffing report in the coming weeks that talk more to what you're talking about, which is the number of students to the number of classroom teachers and what that looks like and is it equitable across the schools. Does that help?
we are the biggest we've been in the 9 years I've been at Memorial Schools. We were at 150 students back in the 2020, the pandemic year. So we've grown by 40 students. So we have the largest class sizes in first and second grade that we've had in Langston Memorial. So I think that accounts for it, but it's going to shake out a little bit. I think we'll be closer to 180 next year, if not this one.
And we had, when I first came to Russell, we had a bubble that came through. We had a group of kindergartners that were 90, which is about 20 more. We did not adjust our staffing for that. We kept staffing the same. We just had that bubble go through. Yeah.
Any other thoughts or questions? All right, seeing none, let's go, Jeff. Thank you.
You have to push it really hard.
The pink one.
I need to stand there. Right here? Yeah. Okay.
Don't slide on it though.
Hold on though, I forgot my glasses, I'm sorry. Can't even see that.
The staff is up.
What did she say about the staff?
Youthful.
All right. So good evening. So recognition and celebration. 71% of all 3rd and 4th grade students at Dunn School scored in the average or higher range in reading on the Northwest Evaluation Association assessment, which is the NWEA. That was this fall. This fall was the second time we've taken the Maine through the year test. We've taken NWEA for years, and generally taken it 3 times a year in reading, math, and language usage, which is a little bit of a writing assessment. Last spring, the state switched to the Maine through the, Maine.
Still the NWEA, it's just
Still the,
also
well, I'm
serving
saying,
as
so
the
it's
main
still the
three.
NWA, but it's now the main assessment. It took over for, or it became in place of the old MEA, which was our mandatory testing, right? So 71% of our kids in reading were average or higher. And on the same assessment for math, 65% of our 3rd and 4th graders scored average or higher in math. So our 3rd graders, it's the first time they've ever taken this assessment. So when they take it in the fall, they're taking it for the first time. They take the NWEA at Russell and Memorial, but it is a different test, significantly different, shorter. It becomes quite a bit more difficult. So, you know, for the first time seeing it, we were very pleased with what we got for results there. And it also being taken in the fall, they take it about 4 to 6 weeks into the school year. So they're just coming out of vacation, out of the long break, and still showing that they're doing quite well. 82% of our pre-K students met the standard of identifying numbers between 0 and 20 during the 2022-2023 school year. So that's fantastic. We love sending kids who are ready for school to kindergarten, to Russell Memorial. I think there is definitely a noticeable difference between students who have attended our pre-K programs and those who have not. And then 88% of our pre-K students met the standard for identifying between 20 and 26 capital letters during the 22-23 school year. So again, quite pleased with that. We also got a playground makeover this fall. And the Dunn playground was put in when we were a K-5 school. And so a lot of the playground equipment was geared towards younger students, like K2 type of stuff. So we really tried to bring the equipment developmental level up a little bit. There's a lot of rope climbing structures on our new playground, and kids are absolutely loving it. So very excited to have done that. In the background, you can see we did not do anything with the pre-K playground because we added that just a few years ago when we brought pre-K over. So this is really intended for 3rd and 4th grade, what we put in this year. Our goal from last year to develop and implement a multi-tiered system of support, so NTSS-B, that supports Tier 1 instruction of behavior expectations, standard operating procedures, reteaching strategies and celebrations for individual students as a school as a whole. And so we spent a lot of time, of course, you always teach, the things that involve doing school, right? And, sorry, did I move over too far?
Sorry.
Sorry.
Maybe I'll put my glasses on.
Chris was-
Stand here,
Chris
son.
was peeking at me, so.
Huh?
Keep going.
More?
No.
I'm still right on it.
Keep going, keep going, now you're good.
Right there.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna move my stick a little bit, so I know. And so, we've always taught those things, but we really we went through the same trainings that the entire district did with Karen Roby, who was our consultant on this work, and became very explicit in teaching all the routines, procedures, and the different aspects of school in all of our different settings. So I know you've heard that a little bit already, so I won't belabor it, but we really spent a lot of time as a staff training and putting that in place and then teaching it explicitly to kids. And so the data that I wanted to show was around referrals by grade level for every 100 students. And we have about 242 students currently. Last year we were a little bit fewer than that in the 3rd and 4th grade. That's just 3rd and 4th grade. And so this shows the number of referrals per day that we received by grade level. And that means it came to my level to talk about. So a minor infraction is something little that teachers deal with all the time on a day-to-day basis in all settings. And once they get to 4 opportunities to teach and reteach that particular thing with a particular student, then it gets referred to me, and then I have a conversation and do some reteaching and some work with the student. So at the 4th grade level, we had 0.13 referrals per day per 100 kids. So 200 and something kids, that would be about a half a referral a day at our 4th grade level. And then our 3rd grade level, we expect to be a little bit higher because those are kids who have just come into our school. They're learning our routines. They're learning about done school, that sort of thing. There were 0.19 referrals per 100 students. So again, just under a half a referral a day. So I was getting about 1 referral a day. Now, that doesn't mean that people aren't having little conversations all over the place, or I'm not, because I'm at lunch duty, I'm at recess duty, I'm on bus duty, I'm walking in classrooms, and I might do some redirection here and there. But when it formally comes to my level, we're seeing about 1 referral a day across the 3rd and 4th grade, and that speaks to the explicit teaching we've done about all of those settings, about being safe, respectful, and responsible, and what that means around our school. So very pleased with the results we're seeing there. And then we can break it out by location. And by location, you can see in class is the area that we see the most referrals, and you would expect that, right? Because they're in the classroom the majority of the time. The bus would be the second, and that was not surprising at all either, because that is an unstructured environment with 1 adult whose back is to the student population in the building, right? That'd be like putting the teacher at the front of the room with their back turned for an hour and saying, hey, go to it, guys, right? So we expect that the bus is gonna have that. And then from there, playground, an unstructured place, the cafeteria, a little less structured place, and then you get into some of the specials and places that they maybe aren't all the time. So again, this data really shows that our explicit teaching in those areas is working, and we're very pleased about that. We're just building on that as we go. Last year's goal to pilot math and language arts curriculum with the purpose of adopting new programs for the 2023-2024 school year. We piloted 3 language arts programs. You notice that the goal was to actually adopt for this year. We did not feel we were ready to do that. The programs that we looked at the Dunn School, we have about 80 minutes for literacy instruction a day. And the programs that we were piloting were requiring 90 minutes, 100 minutes, 120 minutes a day to get all of the components in. They're just overwhelming to staff. So it really is something that we've taken a step back from. We haven't had a language arts program at Dunn School since before I got there. And we've been doing things really based on standards and explicitly teaching to the Common Core standards, to the main learning results previously, and designing our own instruction. And so now we are saying, okay, the programs really are not, they don't fit what we need, and they're too overwhelming, they're just not appropriate. So we're actually going to look at a framework of language arts instruction where we have common methods of going about teaching language arts, whether it be the process of reading comprehension, all of the other pieces in writing, and that is what we will bring with the hope of adopting in 24-25. And then we also piloted some new math programs. We currently use the My Math program, which is also the same program that the middle school uses. We had a 6-year subscription. This is the other problem with programs. And we got that subscription for 6 years. And then in year 3, we were told it wasn't going to be supported anymore. So My Math was going away. So okie dokie, we have it for 3 more years, but we got to figure stuff out. So we're piloting programs, looking to adopt in 24-25. Update on our goals from this year. So the Dunn staff will engage in professional learning using 2 texts to further their instructional practice. The text building blocks for teaching preschoolers with special needs will be used by pre-K staff to implement plans for students with identified needs. So I am sure that you have heard a lot about CDS in the news, right? And the state is under fire for child development services. They are the ones that own IEPs for students at the preschool setting. That conversation has been going on for quite a while. And even back in 2019, I went to an information session with Paula Levitt about what was going to happen with CDS. It didn't come to fruition, but we could see the writing on the wall. And so we've actually built our preschool program and started taking on pieces of the IEP and of special education services, taking them basically away from CDS, but CDS has funded them. So when we first brought pre-K to Dunn School, we just had 2 teachers and 2 ed techs for the program. And the ed techs were general education ed techs because with 4-year-olds, you have to have 2 people for every 15 kids. So over the years, since we started to see this happen, we have added now a full-time special education teacher designated for pre-K. At Dunn School, we've had speech services. The position was only 0.6. When the person retired from the 0.6 position, we saw an opportunity. We went to CDS and said, hey, will you fund the other 0.4, meaning 2 days a week, and we will take over speech services for pre-K students because we were having services brought in from CDS. They said absolutely, so we added speech. We did the same thing this year with OT. We added 2 ed techs funded by CDS for special education. So CDS pays for those, but we hire them, we train them, they are fully under our umbrella. So now we have a fully inclusive special education program for our pre-K students. And so our next step after adding all of that is to really get on the same page around how are we going to develop those services. CDS still owns the IEP, but we do everything to implement it and to follow that IEP and to plan for the students, to provide the instruction, to provide the support. And so this work right here is really, now that we have a comprehensive team, bringing that together. Our second one for our 3rd and 4th grade folks, this is that teaching of literacy instruction that we're looking to go to. We are currently reading guided reading responsive teaching across the grades for literacy and for language arts instruction. We're working on this and developing common elements to the structure so that we know when we go classroom to classroom, the language arts, the reading and the writing instruction will be similar, even if it's not programmatic based, right? So the guardrails for everybody. Still using the Common Core state standards as our guide, but really having an intentional structure that everybody is going to use. So this work is happening right now. We're in this. And then our Done School multi-tiered system of support. I just talked about kind of the work we did around teaching, explicitly teaching our MTSSB system. Our next step for that this year is to do the recognition piece, right? Our kids are doing a great job, our staff are doing a great job. We want to be sure that we're recognizing. So we've added a most improved and a student of the month celebration for every month, and teachers nominate students from their classroom. We recognize those kids in a school-wide assembly. We have our B celebrations. So just like all the other schools in the district, our code is be safe, be respectful, be responsible. So we use Bs. Kids get Bs when they're seen doing things around the building. We have a jar in the office. They come into the office and put their B in the jar and they get a token. And then when we fill the jar, we have a school-wide celebration. We've done winter carnivals, we've done fall festivals, we've done a movie before a vacation, like a school-wide movie. We've done all sorts of things, and kids pick those celebrations. Caught Being Kind. Students can recognize each other for doing kind things around the building, and we read that over our announcements every day. And then we also want to recognize our staff members. So we do Staff Members of the Week, and we do shout outs to them. They get a little token from our MTSSB committee, and we put up a little poster about them in the hall so that students can know more about the staff that they're working with. Our current challenges. You've heard a lot about our general education social workers already, so I'm not going to belabor that, other than to say the one piece that has been left out so far is currently that position is funded through ESSER funds, and those ESSER funds are going away. So that becomes a budget request. And, you know, if we don't meet our capacity with the person we have, she's at my school 2 days a week, 1 full day and then 2 half days. Her caseload at my school is 13, which, if I do the math correctly, makes her caseload 33 kids. And I do have a small waiting list of 2 to 3 students. Like Danny, like Amanda, kids are referred to her through our RTI process. So it has to go through a team that talks about what we've already done, puts other things in place. Some of that includes work with our school counselor, right? Typical guidance counselor, the school counselor person. But that's short term compared to work that would be done with a social worker, and doesn't work on kind of those bigger issues, family structure issues, some of those types of things. So if we're talking about a caseload of 33 for somebody who's spread across 3 buildings and has a little bit of a waiting list and is not funded currently through our budget, which is why you've heard about it 3 times. And there continues to be a shortage of substitutes. I do not have the long-term or the permanent sub position filled at my school this year. I have had it filled in the past. That person did not want to commit to every day, so they sub in my building probably 2-3 days a week, but they are not there every day, and I can't count on that. I do have a structure where I'm able to cover classrooms a little more easily because I have an ed tech assigned to each teaching team, and so that's how I deal with it, and for the most part I can get things covered. But the most difficult classes to cover are the specials, art, music, PE, library, computer class. Those are very difficult to cover. And then, you know, I'm pulling, when I am covering a class internally, I'm pulling from somebody else's learning. Like, for instance, I'm pulling from my RTI staff, which means a student who needs help in the intervention realm is not necessarily getting it on that day because that person's working in a classroom. So. And then our partnerships. New Gloucester Rec, similar to Amanda, I have a lot of kids that attend New Gloucester Rec. New Gloucester Rec actually is housed now, their before and after school program is housed at the Dunn School. It allowed them to create an increase in capacity. students from the middle school who would typically go to New Gloucester Rec to their facility actually get bused to Dunn School, and they're there. And then I have 35 or so kids from Dunn School that go there, and then I have Memorial kids that come over on a bus. And probably 20 kids come over on a bus and are at Dunn School, and they use our gym and our library and our outside facility. They started that in the summer. It worked really well with the summer arts program, and so we made that adjustment, and that actually really benefits us. They do pay a small fee for the use of our facility, a daily fee. They are not open on vacations with us, so we're not putting custodial staff and other district staff into the facility when they wouldn't typically be there. But it does allow them, because of the area that they had in New Gloucester was too small, it has allowed them to expand, and that actually serves our kids. So that's been really beneficial. The Gray Rec department works closely with New Gloucester Rec, and so we sometimes do some little things like on voting day at Russell School, all the Gray Rec kids come over to Dunn because they can house them with New Gloucester. The Pineland Outdoor Center, currently we are skating on their rink. We've been doing that for a few years. They don't charge us. For PE, we go over to the rink. I'm a little disappointed they moved it to the outdoor center. It used to be behind the tennis courts, and it was fantastic. We walk across the street and skate. We own the skates. Our phys ed teacher goes over and teaches. Every class gets 2 trips. Now it's up by the outdoor center, so we do bus them up there, but it is one of the highlights of the year for kids in physical education. Kids who have never skated before put on skates. We have all the training tools that they can push around on the ice, and they get out there, and I don't know how many kids have come back and said, oh, my family went skating because we tried it, and I pushed my family to do that, or I'm going to take skating lessons, or I'm going to start trying to play hockey, or whatever. They just love it. We also use their tennis courts for free, and we use their grounds. We walk across to the pond and all those types of things, and they've been very accommodating for us. Obviously, Russell and Memorial Schools, and I neglected to put the middle school, which should also be there. We work very closely with them. The Maine Department of Education, we are about to start a restorative practices training with them that is free from the state. And that is really a next step for us in our MTSSB work. So we've taught all the expectations, we've taught our code, we know how to work together, but what do we do when all that falls down, right? And so restorative practices is about how in the classroom you can work together to repair anything that might have gone on. I have a conflict with a peer, or the class is not getting along well, not functioning correctly. How do we work together to repair that and move forward and make it a better learning environment? So I have a team, along with the middle schools also doing this, that are going to participate in this training this spring, and they will be the team that brings it back and trains the rest of the staff next year. And again, the consultant from the state is free, so it's pretty lengthy training series. Child Development Services, I kind of already explained what's happening with that, and where our partnership is there. And then of course our Patriot Parents have been fantastic as always. And Angie Bishop, shout out to her. She's our rep. She's phenomenal. Does a lot of great stuff for us. They fund our Bryant Pond trip for 4th graders. And do a lot of big ticket items for us at Dunn School. So, all right.
Thanks, Jeff. Questions or thoughts for Jeff?
Going back to the social services question, I know you said you've got a couple of kids on a waiting list, and the other schools are maxing there. Is the screening tool, or however the kids are being screened and referred to that, is that process being conducted in acknowledgement that you only have one person?
Yes, because she sits on that team.
So if you had, I don't want to say you're not serving kids that might be served, but are there kids being screened out in acknowledgement that there's no time for them in the first place?
We are, I wouldn't say they're being screened out.
No, I don't mean.
We are finding other ways to serve them that maybe aren't as beneficial.
Right.
Yeah.
So an additional staff person wouldn't just be for the couple of kids on the waiting list.
No.
There are other kids that already could make
Yes.
use of this.
Ideally, we'd have one per school. I don't think that is, I don't think that would be the next step.
Right.
2 would be really nice. But the reason you're seeing it here is because it's coming out of ESSER and we really need the position.
Right.
We really need to fund that position. So I'll give you this example. I have classes, I'm the one who has 22, 23 in a classroom. And I intentionally did not add a classroom teacher because I knew that bubble was gonna kind of go through. I'm losing a class of 140, I'm getting 142, I'm getting a class of 140. And my 3rd grade is a smaller class, they're 124, so I'm gonna stay about the same for next year. I know I'm gonna be 22 to 23 potentially in the classroom. To me, adding a teacher that peels off only 1 or 1.5 students per classroom is not as beneficial as having a social worker and that support so that if a student really struggles and derails a room, that I have the person in place to support that, take that out, and the learning for the other 21 continues to go. Because if I don't have that position, then it becomes me, my guidance counselor, and other people trying to manage that without the real understanding of what that student issue is, whether it's trauma-based, family-based, whatever it might be, and it blows up the learning for everybody in that room. So I feel like I'm actually getting more learning time for all of my kids based on the fact that I have that social worker to support that kid who might tip the room over. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't want to mask the need.
Yep. Yep.
I'd like to, I just want to acknowledge that the need is greater than perhaps the number indicates.
Yeah.
Because the screening tool is being used appropriately.
Yes.
But there are other kids that could benefit.
Yes.
Now.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Comment / question, really impressed and interested in the work you're doing with CDS in having people in-house, and I had a little side whisper, like, is this kind of, are we out ahead of other folks on this?
Way out.
What do you?
That's exactly what I said.
That's
In fact, yeah, I mean, from other administrators, I represent the district on the certification committee for administrators in the central area here, central Cumberland County. And I've talked about this in that committee, and they are like, this, we gotta come see this because we're way out. Yeah.
What do you think the benefits are that we're seeing here over, your peers in other districts by having that?
Well, I'll give you a perfect example is probably 2 years before COVID, so it was not even COVID related. CDS has a really hard time finding staff. They did not service our kids with IEPs for an entire year. And so what they did was they sent 2 staff members in the summer to give all of the IEP hours for those particular kids who didn't get their services in the summer. So they went 9 months without getting specially designed instruction for what they needed. And they tried to cram it into 50 hours over a summer at 2 hours at a time. Completely not appropriate. Speech, we were pretty successful with. We actually hired the speech teacher from CDS, took her away. She was a outside contractor for CDS. She didn't actually work for CDS, but she was a contractor that they used. And when our position opened at the 3rd and 4th grade level, the way we enticed her in was, hey, we can keep CDS with you too, and we can keep all those kids. And so she came over. Speech was the only one that we got consistent service with. Our kids were way out of whack, and we didn't have any ed techs from CDS. They never could find ed techs to support our kids. So our model is inclusive, meaning that they get their service in the classroom rather than, they pull out for some things, but most of the time it's push in. And those ed techs can support behavior, can support learning, all of that stuff right in the classroom with their peers, which is the model that we're always striving for. And then now that we have a teacher who manages the IEPs, who's involved in the goals, and who directs those ed techs in how to provide the instruction and the support based on those goals. All of it's right there. And the other benefit is they work with our 3 general ed classroom teachers and the other ed techs all the time. So everybody is involved in the planning. And that book that we're reading is really about how as a team do we plan for these kids with those needs. And it's been,
It also makes for much smoother transitions.
Yes.
We have our meetings for kindergarten.
Yeah.
We take on that IEP as a school system.
yeah, so when they go there to Russell Memorial, that transition is.
That's great.
I will say as a precursor that tomorrow, I believe it is, Pender Mankin, the commissioner, is going to be speaking to the legislature about CDS because they're currently trying to avoid a federal takeover. And so part of the current legislation is that they have to present a plan to the legislature. That happens tomorrow. There will come a time when we are going to be responsible for 3-year-olds with IEPs. Now that doesn't mean we necessarily have to serve them in our school, in our pre-K program. It may mean we have to push the service out. Excuse me. But we will, I expect that what's going to come of this is we will be the ones who have to service the IEPs for 3-year-olds. That could be speech, occupational therapy, direct instruction. And so we're going to have to plan for that.
And I think I would add to what Jeff's saying, it's not just that we would have to provide services, it would extend our child find responsibilities
Yes,
to
right.
3-year-olds. So all of that,
But-
you guys have been through that policy and like, we have to find them, evaluate them, make the IEP, and then also provide.
But the current proposal, as I understand it, when I attended the meeting, was that CDS, like they are doing with our 4-year-old program now, would fund that. So the money would come from the state. We would not have to fund it locally. It would be a state-funded piece.
But we don't have details yet.
But we don't have details. We'll get more of that tomorrow. I think.
Time
Some
frame
of
and
that
funding
tomorrow.
are the big.
I don't know
big
what time
question.
do you know what time she's presenting?
I don't know either.
I'm very much looking forward to hearing that.
Slightly different topic. Any progress or support needed or anything on the potential amphitheater art space that we're?
Yeah, I almost brought that up last night at the bond committee. So we've I've had a couple of people out to look at the space, and the space we're looking at Dunn School is, if you're facing the school, it's to the right down the hill. We own a good portion of land there, and there's a natural bowl. I think it would be too cost prohibitive with the amount of money we got, was $125,000 from Planson, to put in seating as a first step. So I think what our first step is going to be, and what we're looking at trying to do this spring and summer, is to build the stage area with a small shell, right? And then probably some sound equipment that is portable that we can move down there, and let the seating be people that come with, they can bring their lawn chairs and things like that and put it out. We'll keep the area mowed and low. I think we have a flat area up above that we can probably have a dirt parking area, plus it would be pretty much no cost except our own staff to cut a path from our parking lot down to that area. So there may be, depending on what we can get for materials, I think we can build out probably a good portion of that stage with our own people. But yeah, I don't have an exact quote yet, but I do know it's cost prohibitive to try and put seating in that area, because just with 125 we can't.
What about the water?
The water?
Yeah, wasn't there a problem with being able to water that property? And installing some kind of water system?
I don't think we need to water. For what we're talking about is like a amphitheater for outside performances.
Surrounding it, the grass.
I don't think we would need to water it, no. Pretty healthy farm growth. We could hay it most of the time. Yeah.
Is that close to the house?
Close to what?
The former house foundation?
Yeah.
So,
It's down that hill, there's a line of pines that go there.
so somewhere down in that area, there's a drill well.
There, oh, it sits right, yep, it sits right there. But I don't know if we would need to start with,
Someday, if we want to.
if we wanted to, we could water.
I have a question on the math.
Yeah.
You've adopted my math program, you
We
said?
had my math, but they discontinued it, so now we're looking to adopt a different program. So we signed a 6-year license with them years ago, and then they
This is the last, this is.
This is
sixth
the
year.
last
This
year.
current school year is the sixth.
So they've discontinued it. So the current programs we're looking at is Bridges, which is the same program that K-2 is using. We're also looking at a product by the company that makes my math called Reveal. So we've been piloting those two programs.
So there would, if you choose something beyond Bridges, it wouldn't be consistent with
That's correct.
the other students
Now, the
going?
thing about, so this is the thing we run into, is a lot of these programs are K-5 and not necessarily run all the way through. So Bridges is a K-5 program, it does not continue beyond 6th grade. So the middle school would look to adopt a different program, and they are currently in the same place we are. We adopted my math based on the fact that the middle school had adopted it 1 year before us, and then they're in the same pickle because it was discontinued. Yeah.
Other questions or thoughts for Jeff? All right, seeing none, thank you so much, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
Ollie, you are up.
There's a sign right there, Steve.
Get it out of the way.
Good evening. So my name is Holly Day. I'm the Director of Special Services. I'm going to play my newbie card tonight and tell you that my presentation is a little bit shorter than the last 3 you saw, but you might be okay with that at this point of the evening. So, starting with recognition and celebration. First of all, last year the board and the town approved the board certified behavior analyst position to be added to the Special Services Department. We were able to find and hire a local BCBA who is thrilled to be here, and the feedback has been fabulous from all the schools that are working with her, the special ed teachers, the general ed teachers. It's really been great to have somebody on staff to fill that behavioral need and to provide functional behavior assessments when we need them, so we're not going out trying to contract and pay people for those separate evaluations. So that's been a great addition to the staff. Jeff already really talked about the fact about how well things are going with the pre-K services and with CDS, so I'm not going to touch upon that. Teachers and educational technicians, I should have put this number 1. I have been so thrilled coming into this district with the skills and the commitment of our teachers and ed techs with the students. You know, when you walk in brand new, you never quite know what you're gonna have for a staff. And we have some fabulous teachers who are doing such great work on a day-to-day basis. And what really impresses me is not only what they're doing for the kids, but how they're supporting each other throughout the day. You've heard every school is short-staffed for educational technicians. For substitutes, Jeff didn't mention when he talked about the hard classes to get substitutes for. Special ed is definitely a hard class to get a teacher substitute for. And I am just seeing ebb and flow in every school. When this person needs support, here's a group coming in to provide the support. When this person is a little bit down and this person might have an extra person they're sharing, it's just really, really heartwarming to see how much support they're giving each other throughout the day. So I found what I think were Paula Lovett's goals from last year when I was told I had to do this presentation. So I want to explain that. The first was to recruit and train and retain highly qualified, fully certified personnel. So we had to make some adjustments this year. The federal government took away an option that the state was using for emergency certification for special education teachers. That kind of stopped mid-year, and it was a little bit of a surprise. It really wasn't well publicized that it was stopping. So we had a couple of teachers that were on emergency certifications. We provided the support they needed to help pursue that conditional or professional certification if they were interested in doing so. And when I wrote this slide, all professional positions in the district were currently filled except for a special school psychologist That was advertised before I came into the district. We have not been able to fill that. We'll talk more about that later. I also just had a teacher resign, so I do have a teacher opening in the district as well at the high school. Oh, there we go back. The second goal was to have instructional staff that understand the science of reading based on professional literature and best professional practice. To my knowledge, this did not happen while Paula Levitt was still here, and I think between her retiring and trying to wrap up as much as she could before she walked away, and then me coming on and trying to grasp this, we haven't really done this. So, new goals. I put 2 up here. I have so many more goals than that, and there are so many more things we're doing in special education, but a couple I really want to focus on. One is to improve transition planning for high school students and provide appropriate supports and instruction for post-secondary students. So as soon as a student who's identified as a student with special needs hits 9th grade, we have to start doing transition work with them, and we need to start talking about their career goals, their educational goals, and their living goals for after high school. And there are inventories and surveys and different things that we should be doing with the student. And then we have to look at, is the plan we're putting together help support their goals in the future? And I think that has been gotten a little loose here at the high school. So one of my goals is to really tighten up that transition planning, making sure we're coming to meetings with good information about what the student hopes or dreams of doing after high school. And then we're looking at ways for how we can support that student to reach those goals. The second one, and this will be a surprise to Chandra, and I should have reached out to her.
Just take a step that way real quick, and I'm okay. I'll roll with you, bro.
Okay, there we go. Is to work with our response to intervention programs, our RTR, our title services, to collaborate and partner to meet the goals of all learners. And I really kind of have this vision for a much bigger, let's meet the kids who have needs, regardless of what they're identified for, and how can we work together to say, hey, I'm doing a group working on fluency skills about the K level, and this student over here, not identified for special ed, but they need this work too, so let's pull them into that group and help work on it. And I think we can have a more inclusive, better approach. This is a huge goal. This will be on my list for a few years. So my goal for this year is to kind of start looking at this and kind of start exploring. There are some other schools that are doing this well, looking at how they're doing it and starting to look at what we could bring together and work together, so it's not, oh no, that's a special ed student, oh no, that's a title student, oh no, that's a student who doesn't qualify for any of them, but they still need support. So that's one of my visions, but it's a big one. So current challenges. You've heard the ongoing shortage of educational technicians. This really is huge. We are having, we're not meeting all our students' needs. We're not keeping students and staff as safe as they deserve or have the right to be because of our shortages. And the retention of this group is critical. When we get staff in, when we get them trained, we don't want to lose them. But this continues to be an ongoing problem everywhere, at every school. This district is not alone in that, but really kind of thinking outside the box about how we can address this issue. I'm having a real challenge trying to hire a school psych examiner on a teacher contract. They're part of the union, the school psychologists, so their salary is based on the teacher contract. There is such a shortage of psychologists out there to do school psych examinations that they're going to the schools that offer a separate contract and a higher rate of pay. I've only had a couple of inquiries of interest in this open position that we've been advertising since before I started on July 1st. And both of them, when they heard it was going to be on the teacher salary, said no thank you, and that was the end of it. And even retaining the staff we have is going to be challenging. So I know it's, we're already 1 year into the contract. It's not easy to open a contract. It might cost more money, but if I'm getting by with the 2 school psych examiners I have right now, because we've done a lot of work to try to meet the needs, but if one of them were to leave and I'm down to just 1, we're sunk. And there's nobody out there contracting. I've checked with my colleagues and stuff to say, who's out there, who can we get? If we have to, it would cost us so much more money. So something I'd like people to kind of think about. The social and emotional needs of our students continue to impact the safety of our staff and our students and the quality of learning for all students. And this is from K to 12th grade. It's really, really challenging, the struggles some of our students are having, from acting out in class to significant absenteeism and just not coming to school, refusing school refusal, to students at the high school who are coming to school but not going to class. So they find anywhere to be in the school other than in their class. Students whose needs rise to such a high level, we can't meet their needs and we want to outplace them, but there's no places to outplace them, which means we still need to come up with an educational plan for them. So social emotional needs continue to be very, very challenging for everyone. The director's schedule, I wish I could share with you what my calendar looks like on a daily basis. My day is packed with back-to-back meetings, all of the IEPs, meeting with staff observations, student observations, meeting with administrators, and more IEP meetings. There is no time in my schedule for classroom visits and for program development, which is a really important part of this job, and it's something that I want to be able to do and help with. I have been able to get into a class here or there, and when I come in, they're like, "Oh, we're so happy to see you, please come in. You know, the former director never came and visited." And I'm like, I understand why. Her schedule didn't allow it. It wasn't because she didn't want to, her schedule didn't allow it. And I feel terrible. There's 5 other people that work in the special services little corner down here, and when they need something, they'll come in, they'll be like, "I know you're really busy, but," and that is not the presentation I want to give to anybody, that I'm too busy to talk to them and to answer a question or solve an issue. And I don't think I give across that thing, but they see me going all the time from one thing to another. So I'm bringing this up because we have a half-time assistant director, and one of my requests for the budget will be to move that person to a full-time assistant director slot so she can share more of these, or he, so she can share more of these responsibilities, and we can work together to provide that class support and program development. Partnerships, many you've already heard about, child development services. We're working with Maine Educational Center for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing, the former Baxter program, for many of our students. We work with vocational rehabilitation. I just met with them the other day. We're going to kind of work on increasing their presence in the high school because they can provide a lot of support for students for after high school. And the Maine Administrator of Services for Children with Disabilities, or as I call it, MADSEC. I work with them both in a regional group and a state group, and they provide a lot of support, workshops, and PD for directors as well. I think my last one says questions. I just can't get there. There we go. Questions.
Now we got to the slide. Thank you, Holly. Questions or thoughts? Go ahead.
So, how many students in the entire district have IEPs? Like, about what percentage?
Could you repeat the question? I didn't hear the question.
How many students have IEPs in the district?
Yeah. So I knew you'd ask this, and I meant to look because I have it on my bulletin board, and I forgot to look before I came in here. We run around 400 students are identified. It's about 19% of our school population, more or less, changes day to day. We're around 19%. The state of Maine, in their ideal world, will tell you 15% would be the goal, but very few schools get down as low as 15%.
Is there a trend of like that the younger students, that percentage is increasing, or is it fairly consistent throughout the grades?
I would say it's fairly consistent. Yeah.
We've also done a lot of, it's lower than it has been. I think it was 25% when I first got to the board. Something like that.
That's very high.
We brought that down considerably,
Yeah.
and that was the whole point of investing in the RTI and the MTSS.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Ben.
Question on, to sort of drive understanding for people who maybe don't have a lot of experience with IEPs and often 504s and all the meetings. How long is the average IEP meeting that you find yourself sitting in?
I would say if I were to give you a quick average, it'd be an hour.
Yeah.
But that would be for what we call an annual review, where we're reviewing their progress from the past year and developing their plan for the next year. When we get to an initial meeting or a triennial and we're reviewing evaluations, we're probably more of around an hour and a half.
And then, speaking to, I know the general percentage of kids who are receiving services, identified fully as IEP student, how often are you, or how many children are you also serving that are perhaps being looked at or being assessed and then getting support through 504 or a number of other supports? And do they fall within your department or do they then move around?
So I oversee 504 for the district, but 504 is a general education program, so they kind of fall under each school's kind of oversight. The special ed staff sometimes get pulled in for a little bit of support, but we're not quite as involved in the daily 504 piece. Right? I would just look at nods as well. And then students that are in progress, I wouldn't have a firm number like students that are in the referral process, but one of the pieces, when any student kind of comes into the referral to special education, first of all, we want to see that they've had RTI services. So all the schools have been providing RTI and general intervention services, and those continue throughout the referral process. So again, even right there, we're kind of partnering, but maybe not as well as we could be.
Yeah, and it's representing a significant amount of time as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're asking our therapists, our speech, our OT, and our PT, who have full caseloads of students, to also figure out how they're going to evaluate all these new kids that come in and referred, and then take their time to be at meetings as well. So.
Go ahead, Gary.
The ed tech situation has been going on for years now, and it's just getting worse. Are we able to fulfill all the mandated obligations with ed techs?
No.
Or are we, so we're out of compliance?
We are out of compliance, and we're doing our best to be creative and find those different ways to support the students.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for making
Do you
sure.
get waivers from the state on that?
video.
Excuse me.
Well, it's not just us.
I know it's not.
No,
I just-
there's no waivers. If a student has an IEP that calls for a certain service and we're not providing it, we own the responsibility for the fact that we're not providing it.
I have a question on the numbers.
Go ahead, Fran.
About, was I next? I'm sorry.
I just said, go ahead, yeah.
Oh, 300, you said about 387. Of those, how many are seen, like, how often I know it depends on the services that they need, but how many of these would be just one time, but they're included in those numbers?
Yes, I couldn't tell, I mean, it could be one student, that number could have just some consultation services to their general ed teacher. Another student could have 32 hours a week of intense special ed services. So they're all fit within that 387.
And this program has been going on for how long? What, all this, having the special services in the school district? Any school district?
Yeah.
How long has this been going on?
Oh, early 70s when it was really federally mandated with the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act.
I have a loaded question.
Okay.
So if this has been on so long, it seems like the social end of all of this, for the students going out into the public and becoming mature adults, the attack on the structure of citizenship seems to have dramatically gotten worse. Before it was a single crime, now it's based on crime, and now it's a gang crime shield, that type of thing. Has anyone looked into this in your seminars and all about any correlation between that we've gone with all these special services, and now, the future society has been adversely impacted?
No, I would not be able to
let's talk about
answer. That's a very big.
I know it's a very big question, but it's been one you said from the 70s, so I was kind of curious if that has come into any conversation. No, okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Other questions?
Anything else we need? All right, so before we break, I just want to make sure the 2 parking lot questions that I picked up tonight were just exploring further what the workload is for the gen ed social worker and making sure we understand the waiting list numbers and that sort of thing. And then just obviously, I think we're going to need to explore further whether this sort of suggestion for an increase in the assistant position from a half-time to a full-time. Is there anything else that anybody else wanted on the parking lot? All right, seeing none, I am going to suggest that we adjourn unless someone objects. All right, thanks everybody, good workshop. Thank you administrators for helping us out, we appreciate it.